Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by James and Callum in the studio. How you going, guys?
Yeah, alright.
A little bit of housekeeping just to start off, so I'll throw it over to James.
Yeah, so Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year, everybody.
Because last week we couldn't make it to the studio, so we just released a bonus episode that Callum and I recorded in December. So technically this is our first real episode of 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you had a great time and a safe time. It's been a crazy few years, I think, for everyone. It's been a very tough year for me. I know personally I've had a lot of troubles, and this show's had its ups and downs, and so hopefully this year we can kind of work to make it, if not better, then at least more enjoyable experience,
I think it always starts with we want to have fun first. And I think if we have fun, then the audience hopefully has fun.
That's the thing, hopefully that comes across. If we just talk about things we're passionate about and have a fun time, then hopefully listeners don't mind exactly the format or whatever of the show. So
if you've been listening to this show before, sometimes things don't go as planned, but we roll with the punches.
Yeah, and we're still having those technical difficulties in the studio that we mentioned a few episodes ago. So it's all still in flux. But I was talking to the boys before we turned on the mics, and we were gonna sort of implement a couple of things that hopefully the show has some structure to it, but also is loose and fun.
Allows us to be flexible.
And more flexible.
I guess that's the age-old battle of this show: is loose and flexible versus structured.
Yeah. And also, and the other thing which we've been talking about on last few episodes is like what the listeners actually want to hear. Are they okay with us kind of just loosey-goosey, whatever? Yeah. Or do they actually want to hear our analysis of the latest movie, or our, talk about the weird B movies? And so a couple of weeks ago,
we put out a poll.
One on Twitter, one on Instagram, and one on Spotify.
I was really surprised that we found 5,000 votes just for B movies.
So what we're saying is the
audience has spoken.
Tuesday Review is just bad B movies from now on. So we couldn't do a Facebook poll. I don't know if that's a thing.
I think it is. I've seen them. But I don't know how to do it.
I don't know, yeah.
We had a good try at Facebook, but honestly...
that didn't work.
It didn't work out.
Twitter, we put up the poll, but then Twitter went down for a little while.
We did get one result on Twitter.
2 results?
We got 2.
Wait a minute.
What?
Let me check. I wrote it down, but now I'm starting to doubt myself.
That's all right. We'll just quickly jump on Twitter and have a quick look.
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, we got 2 on Instagram and 1 on Twitter. So,
Drum roll.
Well, that's the thing. Is like I'm not sure how many listeners we have, but I'm assuming the 1 or 2 people who voted aren't our entire listener base. So it's like this isn't completely representative of what people want to hear. But the one person who voted on the Twitter poll voted for new. So we should say on Twitter we put what
Twitter had more of a restrictive poll. You could only select, was it like 4 options or something like that? So we had to cut it down.
So we said like, what do you want to hear on the show going forward? And we put new releases, classic movies, B movie /horror /sci-fi or other, and they had to message us because Twitter only had 4 options. And the only vote we got was for new releases. So from now on, if there's a new release out that we want to watch, we'll watch it, and we'll make that a priority on the show.
Especially, that's not to say we're going to be reviewing every new release.
So that's the thing is, so on the Instagram poll, we put some other options, and we had two votes. One was for new releases and one was for B movie /horror.
So was it 2 votes or was 50%?
It said 50%, 50%.
So it could have been 500.
So it could have been like 1,000 votes.
Yeah.
We're going to play devil's avocado and say it was 2.
Yeah, I'm going to say we got 2 votes because that's and I don't even know how the Instagram poll works. It's like in a Instagram story. I don't even know what the fuck story is. But anyway, so we got one more vote. So for Twitter, we got 1 vote for new releases, and for Instagram, we got 1 vote for new releases and 1 vote for B-movie/horror/sci-fi. So in saying that, from now on, since at least 1 or 2 listeners, want us to focus on new releases, if there's a new movie coming out, we will try to prioritize that.
Yeah, with an asterisk, movie that we would like to see.
However, asterisk, it's a movie we're already planning to watch anyway.
We'll just talk about it first.
Yeah, we're just going to prioritize that. Yeah. So a movie like Glass Onion, which came out in December, we kept putting off talking about it. We were going to talk about this week, but some other stuff has come up. But that's that's an example of something we were all going to watch anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what we would prioritize because that's a new release.
Yeah.
We're not talking about going to see Avatar or Black Panther. No, who cares?
Yeah.
Those aren't the new releases we're talking about. Hopefully voted.
Yeah. Listeners would know the kinds of movies that we would be enjoying.
When we say, we're going to prioritize new releases, it's something that
like
comes
Oppenheimer.
out. Yeah, Oppenheimer would be a new release when it comes out, and we're obviously going to talk about that regardless of whether people want us to or not. But it's like that's an example of something, just new shows and movies and video games that come out that we're going to play or watch anyway.
I would say it's also kind of a difficult subject given the landscape of streaming right now with cancellations and everything else. So that's also to say, let's be more specific and say it's new movies specifically that would take first priority, and less so TV and other stuff that can get cancelled almost immediately.
That's a good example because on one hand you've got like Slow Horses, which Nathan and I are both watching and going to talk about on the show. So that's technically a new release. It might not be the biggest show. It might not be the new Squid Game, but it's like a new release show. So technically we are talking about a new release when we talk about that. But on the other hand, you've got 1899, which I watched when it came out thinking, one, I like the creators of Dark and I'm going to like this show. And 2, we'll talk about it on the show at some point.
I waited for this reason.
Yeah. But then you guys didn't end up watching it and now it's been cancelled. So it's just like, well, technically that was a new release and we should have talked about it when it was a new release. But now that we've waited, it's like, well,
there's no point.
It didn't matter.
So it's more about us being strategic with these new releases.
And it's just what we want to watch.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch 1899 straight away.
Yeah. And that's what you did.
And I did.
I mean, I've said on the show previously, I'm more cautious now with watching TV streaming because I know that it can cancel immediately. Movies are a safer option.
The reason I waited was because I remember when I was watching Dark, I was messaging you about it, and I think you specifically waited for it to be finished before you watched it. And I was like, one of the issues I had with Dark was that it was a very complicated TV show.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'd have to remember who was that guy, and I'd have to look it up to get it. And you didn't have that problem because you watched it back to back.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll wait for at least 2 seasons to be available for 1899, so I can just
But
and then here we are.
It's hard. It's hard to decide as well because you're kind of like, well, something like Severance. It's like, well, you have to watch it week to week. You got to get there straight away.
Yes, Severance is a show that I will take a risk on, and I have to watch it week to week.
It really just depends on the show or the movie, whatever. But so we're just saying, like, if there is a new release that we did plan to watch anyway, now that we know there's at least 1 or 2 people who like when we talk about quote unquote new releases, that's something we'll try to talk about, rather than me go, there's no point in talking about it because not enough people watched it or whatever. It's like no, it's technically a new release.
Yeah.
On the other hand, one other person voted for B-movies horror/sci-fi.
We like that anyway.
Which we always like to.
That's not a problem fitting that into our schedule.
Now, because I watch so many movies, it's like, now if I have one of those...
We can pull it out of the bag.
I can, that's something I'll prioritize.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it seems because we didn't get that many votes, I think we'll just keep doing the show the way we were doing it, just kind of whatever we're enjoying.
Prioritizing certain things,
but we'll prioritize certain things depending on the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going forward, it's still the same kind of show. It's just,
We're adjusting things.
We're
Adjusting
trying to adjust
things.
for our listener base.
I think every week we kind of change things behind the scenes, and and then we talk about it on the show. It's like, this is what we're going to do, and then it never really happens, but then it kind of does. It's like, because this, I'm still confused as to what this show is and who listens. So it's
this
just
is the furthest we've ever gone. We made it. We made a poll.
yeah.
There you go.
Finally, when fat lot of good it did, but yeah. So yeah, we'll see how this year goes. And
No one voted on Spotify for the poll. We forgot to.
No. Well, it's like, how many Spotify listeners do we have? I don't even know.
Again,
Like,
Spotify.
I thought we had a lot of Spotify listeners because I don't have Spotify. Like, but I thought that's what people use to.
Anchor statistics, right? Anchor uses Spotify. That's a host. And they estimate there's about 10 active listeners for every episode.
Yeah.
And I would probably trust Anchor's metrics over our previous host.
Yeah.
Because their
But
previous
still,
host
it's
was
kind of
pretty
like
ghetto.
it's still kind of like how accurate, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But,
Yeah.
live listeners, we could have thousands. They won't tell us.
Yeah, I'm sure if we had thousands, at least a few would be. But it's mostly on us because I've been very clear about it. Like, I do not like social media. It's bad for my mental health. It's bad for most people's mental health. It's bad for can be some good, but mostly it's just bad for the world. And so we mostly don't engage. We mostly don't try.
100%. It is on us.
So it's on us. I'm just saying, if you are out there and listening, like,
we appreciate
you. Whether you message or do the poll or not, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. On to our movie discussion for tonight.
Kicking off a brand new movie review, I guess, in a way.
What do you mean, brand new movie review?
It's a new release movie you're going to be talking about.
Oh, new release. Okay.
Yeah.
You said a new review.
Yeah,
I'm like, what does that
brand
mean?
new.
What does that mean?
Pulling out a classic review
The
just to read off
the Tuesday new review.
I apologize.
The Newsday review.
I apologize. I'm tired.
It's all right. I just misunderstood.
As we're re-reviewing a review we did before. All right.
So actually, I want to do that. Okay, I wish you didn't say that because this one of the reasons I don't like doing this show is because, like, we'll get in the studio and we'll review a movie and we'll analyze it to death, and then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should rewatch it before I actually give a solid opinion. But it's like, I don't have time to rewatch a movie several times before reviewing it once, especially if it's just come out and everyone wants to hear about it. So I've been thinking, I'm like, maybe we should go back and re-review some of our older reviews because
I'm down.
We're different people.
There was some, we're different people. And there's some movies where we're like, oh, I love this. And then like we end the episode, turn off the mics. I'm like, you know what? That movie probably wasn't that good. We were
the old Blade Runner 2049 problem.
Yeah. I still haven't rewatched it because every time I rewatch a bit of it, I'm like,
maybe we'll make a thing of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
there are
we'll have to
movies
go back through the catalogue, man, and see what movies we actually feel differently about.
Yeah, because there's movies like, I remember when we reviewed Life, that Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, and it was like, we all talk about it, and we're like, yeah, it's a fine movie, we enjoyed it, go see it, whatever. But it's like, we never watch it again. It's not memorable. Like, I don't really care about it.
That's an interesting idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think
that's why.
Yeah.
That's sometimes why I don't like reviewing movies, is because we're like, we have to talk all about them, and I'm like, you know what? How do I actually feel about it after all's said and done? And if I rewatched it,
Yeah.
That's something interesting to think about.
Yeah, the re-review,
the Tuesday re-review.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
So what are we talking about first? I don't know.
Callum and James recently went to see The Fabelmans.
Yes, that's a new
by
release.
Steven Spielberg.
Signor Spielberg.
Yeah. So I watched. So the reason I specifically want to talk about this movie on this episode, I mean, of course, it's being a new film, is I also watched Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah.
Which is kind of in a similar vein.
Movie about movies kind of thing. Yeah.
And so James was like, that's a good double feature kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because they're a similar vein.
So something I've been doing is, because I think we talked about this on there. It's hard to do a best movies of 2022 because there's so many movies that came out that I didn't get a chance to see. So I don't want to make like a top 10 of 2022 if there are movies I'm still catching up on.
Yeah.
So one thing I've been prioritizing in January is just watching movies from 2022, trying to catch up on
the big ones.
On the big ones. And so far, like, I think it's going to take me at least a couple months to sort of catch up to get to a point where I'm like, okay, I think I've seen enough movies that I wanted to see from last year where I can sort of more comfortably say, oh, these are my top 10 of 2022. So maybe in a couple months I can do favorite movies of 2022. But so far, I'm still catching up. I've got at least 20 to 30 movies that I'm sort of trying to catch up on, plus like another 30 that like I don't prioritize as highly, but I'm like, I should watch them if I'm going to make a list of best movies, just in case, or just to be thorough. But so that might be a couple months. Maybe we could do that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But one of the movies that came out in the US in November, I think, or early December, was Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans, which of course in Australia we don't get until like Boxing Day or New Year's Day or whenever it came out here. And I'm like, well, that's one I want to prioritize as a movie I want to watch before I make any list of like best movies or my favorite movies of 2022. So I was like, let's go see it. And of course, as we've discussed on this show, or pretty much every week since its inception, it's a type of movie, because it's not a superhero movie or a kids animated movie. It's like it didn't come to our local cinema. And it's not a weird art house movie. It's a
Spielberg film.
Yeah, it's not unusual in any way. It's a pretty big, decent budget, mainstream-ish sort of drama.
You would think a Steven Spielberg movie would have at least an honorary showing in every cinema.
At least, I thought at least it will play for a week or two, here at our local cinema. But it didn't, because as we discussed on the show, they don't release mostly. Sometimes they do, but mostly they don't release movies like this. Anymore.
The drama market's not huge anymore.
So luckily it wasn't it wasn't a limited release where we had to go in the city or anything. But we had to go a little bit out of our way to go and see it. And I really liked it.
Yeah, I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Really, it felt a bit long, but so once an arc started going, that feeling of it being a long film went away. So that's how I felt. It's like each, because it's divided into like chapters of Sammy's life. Yeah.
So I mean, we should say, probably listeners know that it's like,
spoiler alert, he becomes a really great director.
It's Steven Spielberg's semi-autobiographical film about like him growing up, loving movies and wanting to make movies and becoming a filmmaker. So. But
co-written by Tony Kushner as well.
Yeah, it's fictionalized, so the character isn't called Little Steven Spielberg.
It's not Stevie, it's
his
Sammy.
Name. Yeah, it's Sammy Fabelman, and it's the Fabelmans instead of the Spielbergs. But basically, everything that happens in the movie, almost everything happened to Spielberg. It's very personal, and even though it's fictionalized and compressed timeline, maybe everything in it pretty much happened to Spielberg. And this is him, I guess, it's like the Spielberg origin story. It's like why did he become this great filmmaker? Like where was his where did his love for movies come from, and his technical ability come from? But I think what's most interesting about this movie, because there's a lot of movies like movies about how great are movies about filmmakers who are like,
Hollywood is nothing but self-congratulatory.
Yeah, pat yourself. And then there's a few movies coming out, just in December and January that it's about, movies about movies that are going to sweep the Oscars. But I think what I liked about The Fabelmans is that it's not just, it's a movie about how great movies are. It's a movie about how Spielberg saw a movie and then wanted to become a filmmaker. No, it's about his family life, and more importantly, it's about his parents.
Yeah.
It's basically, why is Spielberg the way he is because of his family and what happened with his parents.
Yeah.
And I think it works on that level of like, it's a great family drama.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's also very heart-wrenching and emotional.
Yeah.
And it's not just a pat on the back, aren't movies so great, aren't I a great director? It's like, he's trying to figure out, it's like, why am I like this way? Like, why do I love movies so
the movie was
much?
almost therapy.
Yeah.
Well, I said to James, I'm like, what was so interesting after we were talking about it after we saw it, and I was like, what's so interesting is, even though it is, like James said, it is fiction in a sense, you can see some of the pain that he went through as a young man. He might have changed the circumstances slightly, altered things a bit, but you can tell he's like, processing emotion through the script and through the direction,
Well, I think I mentioned it.
deeply personal moments that would probably
there, like I said,
he could only display on screen.
Like I said, almost everything in the movie is something that actually happened to Spielberg. So even though it's a fictionalized account, it's basically what happened to him.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this a few episodes ago. Maybe it might have been a few weeks or months ago, but like the whole, like, you can tell, like, most of Spielberg's movies have daddy issues in them.
Yeah.
And it's like this, if you watch this movie, you know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also it paints his mother and father now that he's older and in his 70s. It's just like now he's finally looking back on it and going like, oh, he can finally see like his parents as people.
Beings behind it.
Yeah,
it's
his
not
parents
just
aren't just his parents, like they're people and they made mistakes and whatever. And his father wasn't the bad guy. And it's not a black and white thing. It's a very complicated issue.
Famously, isn't he said about the movie that it's the movie he's been waiting for so long to make because he didn't want to release it while his parents were alive.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wonder how long he's been sitting on this script or a version of this script.
He's been wanting to make it for a long time. I read in the trivia that his sister Anne Spielberg wrote a script in like the late 90s, early 2000s that like he wanted to make but never, because his parents were still alive at the time and he didn't make it. So at least 20 years this has been brewing. And this version is different to that. But
I think it paints his parents in a pretty good light, considering.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's a very mature,
honest take.
Yeah, honest, and it's like it's not black and white, like I said. Because
when you're dealing with the faults of anyone that's not you, but let alone someone as close to you as your parents, it's like if you're going to approach that with honesty, it needs to be raw, but it also needs to be maybe that's why he brought Tony Kushner in, to someone to give him some more distance. Tony
Kushner has written at least the last couple of his movies, or at least a few of his movies. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first movie where Spielberg is credited as a co-writer. Because usually he doesn't write his movies. He usually gets someone in that he trusts.
He was also credited on... Was it Poltergeist? We talked about this once. Remember?
Oh, yeah. And I was like, hang on. That doesn't sound right. And then it's like, he was.
But yeah, you're right though. Most of the time he doesn't.
But I think this one being so personal that him and Tony Kushner,
it probably helped him a lot.
And it was during the 2020 lockdown where he's like, because he bangs them out. It's like one movie a year at least, and during that time he's like he couldn't work and he's driving himself crazy. He's like, well, if this is the last movie, like the world could end, like cinemas could go away tomorrow. If this is the last movie I make, what should it be?
Yeah.
He's like, I got to keep myself busy. He's like, I might as well finally write this movie I've been dreading.
Yeah. He's shark in the water.
Yeah. And so he wrote it with Tony Kushner, and like it's a really good movie, and I think it's well done. I mean, Spielberg, technically he's a master.
Yeah.
But I think this movie also illustrates why he's good technically, like with the technology and the camera movements and so on, but also why he's good at pulling the heartstrings and doing the emotional moments.
Yeah, that's all Spielberg. I mean,
Is there Spielberg cheese?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think Kushner's role was probably just to more help Spielberg contextualize things.
Yeah, someone outside of the family. That's why they didn't use the Anne Spielberg, his sister's script, because it's like he needed someone an outsider to look in.
It'd be too insular.
Yeah, but also like I was saying, it's like Spielberg is such a great director, and is one of the biggest and best directors because he has that balance of great technical mastery and also emotional.
Yeah, he understands story.
Yeah, and this movie, like I said, is a Spielberg origin story because it shows us like why is he like that? Why is he so technically adept and also so emotionally in tuned and how to tell a great story?
Yeah,
and this movie does a great job of
it's
showing that and also being that. It's like at the same time he's like, this is how I got this way. He's also like, and I'm going to tell it by being an awesome filmmaker.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Well, it starts off really funny. So I mean,
we won't spoil it. Yeah, we'll just
without spoiling it.
Just
how
vague?
Is it just his childhood or does it go?
No.
It starts in the early 50s when he's about 6 or 7. and then it flashes forward to when he's about 16, 17, and it ends when he's about 18.
Okay.
So it's just like...
I was wondering if there was going to be that legendary story about as an older man, accomplished filmmaker, he goes back to film school and submits Schindler's List as his thesis film. I'm like, that is amazing. Like, I want to see that on the film as everyone's just like, all right, Steven, sit down, thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
he'd come off as a real jerk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't know if you.
I mean, I'd clap
If you got the if you made your career like that and then
no,
went
but
back
imagine being some random like film student and then there's like Spielberg and he's like, here's Schindler's List. I'd be so bitter about it, you know.
Yeah, no one could compete with that. Yeah, no. So it finishes when he's about 18. That's fair.
Yeah, so it's not the life of Spielberg.
Yeah.
It's like young Spielberg, how he got into filmmaking, and then
the journey it took him from beginning to get into...
and it's, like I said, it's
place.
not really about that. It's more about his family and his parents divorcing and like how that affected him. And so it's basically like early years and then teen years.
Yeah. His life is the vehicle for the family drama.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes it a great movie. It's not just let's pat ourselves on the back. It's like, here's a great family story.
Yeah.
That also happens to be an origin story for one of the great filmmakers of all time.
Yeah, I wasn't able to go with you guys, but I definitely will watch it.
Yeah, well,
it was so good.
I said to Nathan, it's really good. Seeing it on the big screen.
We got a thank you by the man himself.
Yeah, he did an introduction.
He personally showed up. Thank you.
Yeah, he came into the Sunshine Cinema of all places.
He's in like the northern suburbs.
Yeah, he's like, ugh. But no, he did like a video introduction. He's like, thank you for coming to the movies.
It was cool.
It's really important to support the movies. Yeah, so that was cool. And yeah, it was great to see. That's why I made it a priority. It's like there's so many movies coming out that I just got to wait for streaming because I don't have the time or the money. But with Fabelmans, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and actually make an effort to see this. And yeah, it's a great movie to see on the big screen. And he is still such a great filmmaker. And yeah, just the artistry of it. And that's which is even present in the movie is like art versus family. It's like, do you spend your time on your family or do you spend your time on your art? And, art versus commerce, which we've talked about in the studio before.
It's a favorite subject.
Yeah, it's just like, the movie deals with so many great things and, it's really well done and I really liked it. And I can't wait to see it again. And I said to Nathan, who hadn't seen it, I'm like, when it comes out in 4K, you got to watch it because I can't wait to see it again.
It's also a really well done period piece. All the classic cars, the costume designs. Yeah, it looked flawless.
Looks fantastic, and it's nice.
Like it looks like a film.
Yeah, that's what I said to Cal. You know how we always complain on the show. It's like movies now they all look so flat and ugly, digital, and everything's brown and orange and grey and whatever. And it's just like, I miss, 80s movies where even the not big budget ones, it's just like, it looked like a movie. Like people had normal skin tones. The colors were colorful. Now everything's muted and It's like this movie looked like a real movie.
Yeah.
Had, great production design, costume design, like Callum said. And also...
The score was good too.
Yeah. And also...
John Williams, he always delivers.
I think this might be his last score, I think he said.
Good one to go out on.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Also, it had a real-life monkey.
Yeah, I lost it. I said to James...
we were talking the other week about
we talked about this a few episodes ago.
Because I said to James, I try not to talk during movies, because I'm not Alan. But I said to James, like, is that real? And James was like, I think so, yeah. Like, no.
Yeah, I was like,
only Spielberg.
And it's not just one shot. It's like multiple shots, multiple scenes of the monkey interacting with the family.
So, what?
Yeah.
So in real life and in the movie, like I said, it's everything that happens in the movie happens to Spielberg. Spielberg's mother bought a monkey because she thought it was funny. And she's like, let's have a pet monkey. So she got this little capuchin little monkey guy. And she's just like, yay, we have a monkey now. So the family has a monkey, and it's a real monkey. And we've talked about on this show how I'm sick of CGI animals. They look like crap. And I understand safety, and I understand animal rights. But it's just nice to watch a real movie with a real animal, like they used to do. Remember in Friends when Ross gets a monkey?
Yeah.
And it's just like, now they don't do that because it's too dangerous and it costs too much and yada, yada, yada. And it's just like... movies and shows, even the low budget ones, used to have real things in them, and I miss that. So when this happened in the movie, I was like, yeah, Spielberg, 10 points.
I wonder if Spielberg's like, if Kevin Costner can do it,
Oh yeah, I imagine
Yellowstone, I can do it in my movie. God damn it!
No, but we talked about it. It's just like real.
Yeah.
It's like maybe you have to have this pull. Like if you're a well-known filmmaker, if you're not Spielberg or Kevin Costner, maybe you can't.
Yeah. I imagine Spielberg. If people don't tell Spielberg what he can and can't do.
Well,
I mean, maybe they do.
They do, because there are so many movies that he didn't get to make that he wanted to make.
But I imagine if Spielberg says, "Look, I'm assuming he's handled animals before on film."
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like someone with his standing would have,
and also it wasn't a physical role as well. Maybe they take that into consideration.
And getting the budget for this kind of movie, like only someone like him could get this kind of budget. Otherwise, it would be a lot smaller. Be a much smaller budget.
Oh, look, I feel like if the monkey's just in being present in the shot and that's enough, it's probably
he's interacting with the...
Yeah, but it's not...
He's like sitting on shoulders, eating out of their hands.
Yeah, it's not like a...
and it's not a chin.
Yeah.
It's like Ross's monkey. It's like a little capuchin or whatever they're called. Yeah. Yeah.
It was awesome. I forgot about the monkey.
Yeah, right. I'm like, this is how you... what's the word? Like prestige.
Yeah, prestige.
Like now when when people watch big budget movies now, they think big budget means like Marvel, like CGI things smashing. And I'm like, when I think of big budget, I think of, older movies, like when they used to do stuff.
Well, big budget now is really just considered tactile, like being actually having.
No. For us, that's what it means. For most people, they go to the cinema. If they saw the Fabelmans, they think, "Oh yeah,
boring."
Boring, whatever.
Where's all the CG?
They'd probably. Some people would probably consider this low budget because it's all real and it's family drama in houses and streets and so on. But we watch these, and they watch these big Marvel movies and go, "Wow, big budget! There's dragons and spaceships smashing into each other." It's like me, I'm the opposite. Watching the Fabelmans, I'm like, "Oh, this is prestige. This is luxury. This is a real big budget."
Yeah, look at that 50s street.
Yeah,
exactly.
Look at what seems to be real.
Look at the buttons on Paul Dano's suit. Then I watch a Marvel movie. I'm like, "Oh, they just did that in a green screen and a computer."
That's it.
Like, I don't care that they cost $300 million. You can't see it on screen.
The old cameras.
Oh,
the use of the old tech, such a delight to watch.
Yeah, because he gets a little 8mm camera as a kid and he's using it to make little home movies.
Do you reckon they really have to hunt for those, or they're part of Steven's collection?
I don't know if they were part of his collection, but I mean, you can find them.
Yeah, but it's so I love, this is another Cinema Paradiso thing, which we'll get to, is I love watching people make movies in movies. It's such a meter thing, but there's such joy in the creation of movies, which is what Kevin Smith drained out of Clerks 3.
That's what I was saying. Is like when we review Clerks 3, I'm like, you can see it's just Kevin Smith working through some stuff on screen.
Yeah,
but as a film, like, it's not well made or well told.
This is the opposite to Clerks 3.
This is both. It's like you can see Spielberg working through his childhood and his career and his family life and so on. But also, he's such a technical and master and an artist that he's such a great filmmaker.
But yeah, I love watching the whole scene. Like, I love behind the scenes stuff. So like, there's scenes where you see Steven Spielberg as a Boy Scout or whatever making movies, and it's so cool.
It's like, how did he come up with ways to
achieve practical effects on a limited budget,
with no budget, and just him and his friends and a 8mm camera.
It's really creative things.
Yeah, and you can see, like, that's how he's such a great filmmaker. He's always thinking.
Things like some of the solutions, I won't spoil it, but some of the solutions I can think that's his memory. That, like, you know what I mean? Like, he might have actually done those things.
That's what I'm saying is, one Spielberg says that everything in the movie happened to him, and I believe him. But two, you can tell. Like, there are moments, when his mother is playing the piano and her fingernails make that clicking noise. It's like, that's a memory that's ingrained in his psyche. So it's like, you can definitely watch this movie and go, "Oh, that happened.
But also, the handling of film, after watching these two movies back to back, I would be terrible at both being a projectionist
I'm terrified.
and an old school film editor. Don't let me anywhere near film.
No, when I was at uni, we shot we had a 1 unit of the semester where we did 16mm film, and I was terrified because if you expose it to light,
it's gone
before it's developed. It's gone. The whole thing is just bleached. So I was like I would run away when people were like when whoever's doing the camera, like the DP or whatever, was opening, they had to do it in like a bag. I think you see it in Nope. Remember when they're changing the magazine in Nope and he's got in that little black bag so there's no light gets in?
Yeah.
They would have to do it in that. And I would just run. Like, I don't want to be near it because if I accidentally sneeze and this guy moves and whatever...
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not failing the whole class because I was too close to the guy. That stuff terrifies me.
But I love watching the editing process as well because it's so fascinating. It's so precise.
Yeah, he's got the little editing bay with the little 8mm film. And he has to cut it with scissors and then look at it through the light and
it's so
glue it
cool.
together. Yeah,
it's awesome.
Great.
Just so fantastic to watch. Yeah. Like I said, the period piece, it's these little things which give it, like James says, that prestige. When you can see it's real tech or close to real tech. Yeah. They're actually using things. It looks like it's supposed to look.
Yeah, and I'm someone who, if the film is actually shot on film or digital, I don't mind as long as it's a good film, as long as it's a well told story. So that doesn't matter. But in this case, it's a movie about a guy who grew up making 8mm, 16mm.
Did he shoot it on film?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
And it's actually cool at the end of the credits, you know, and it says, you know, shot on film or shot, you know, Kodak, it has the Kodak logo. It actually had Kodak, 35mm, 16mm, and 8mm. So it's like all three of his, you know, things that are present in the movie, and you can see, like when they're using it. And it's great. It's great stuff. And also, like, not to spoil anything, but the meta moments of, like, you know, you can. It's not like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, ha, ha, ha meta, but it's like there are moments, especially the last shot of the film, where it's like Spielberg winking and going like, yeah, see? It's like very... There's meta moments where you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
You have to be a bit on the, you know, it's a bit on the nose, but it's not like characters in the movie saying, isn't this meta? It's like through the filmmaking, it's like, and there are a couple of bits where a character says, you know, yada yada, and it's just like, oh, that's what he's doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Paul Dano never looks at the camera and goes, that was a close encounter.
Yeah.
So they're not
young Sammy winks.
So they're not at the beach and there's someone's like, oh, I wouldn't like to get in that shark's jaws.
There's like a fin in the water.
That's like, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, it's like he's like shooting his little 16mm movie at the beach, and then he turns and there's like a shark in the water, and he's like, genius. He starts writing Jaws, even though it's based on a book that he didn't write. Because there are a lot of biopics that are like that. Yeah. But no, that's not like that. But there are a few moments where it's like, okay, Spielberg is saying it's being a bit meta here, which is great parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Should we go to a break or?
Yeah, we'll go on a very quick break, and then Callum has some thoughts on Cinema Paradiso. You are back on the Tuesday review talking movies about movies tonight.
Bit of a
theme. Callum has also recently seen Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah, as part of my ongoing uphill battle to watch more movies. Because, you know, we don't have a collection the size of James, of course. No. But our collection is, I don't know, maybe 1/10 the size of James's. So
you got a good size though.
Yeah, we have a big old collection.
It's not about the size.
Yeah, that's it. It's about how you view it.
It's in the way that you use it. It's in the way that you view it.
So I've been watching. I'm still trying to get back into watching films. I haven't watched them in a while. It's been a rough few weeks for, you know, work and such. But I have a brand new stack, and on this stack of films to watch was one called Cinema Paradiso, which I'd never seen, but heard about before. It's a well-regarded film. Yeah. 1988, I believe, Italian drama. Yeah. About a young boy who just wants to be around film, basically. Set in World War One era.
1 or 2?
Starts in World War One era, Italy.
Does it?
Yeah.
That seems too early.
It starts in 1918, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Because what's the kid's name? Oh my god, I'm blanking now.
I'll look it up.
The Fabelmans is taking up all my bandwidth. Yeah. The main character starts off as a young boy in the tail end. Salvatore, yeah, Toto. In the tail end of the First World War, but then in the second arc, when he is a young man, like an adult. He ends up he gets drafted by the army at the tail end of World War II.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember that part.
So it's much like the Fabelmans. Actually, this film has a 3-act structure where it has him as a young boy, him as
But Fabelmans doesn't have the adult section.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. It has him as a trying to be around film as a bit of an older man. Except instead of making movies, he's a projectionist. And then the final arc, of course, is when he returns as a famous director to his
hometown.
Jean Caldo, I believe it's called. Yeah. Anyway, this film I had never seen before, but like I said, I've heard all about it.
No, it starts in World War II, Callum.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I was like, there's no way it goes...
Because he gets drafted as an older man.
A few years after World War II, 8-year-old Salvatore.
So what war did the Italians fight in when he was...
Maybe he got drafted into the military in the
regardless.
He needs
60s.
the compulsory military service.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to do his military service, but it was after, yeah.
It starts off when he's a young boy, and I'm not going to spoil the film because it's a very fascinating story.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
He falls in love with movies by going to the cinema, much like Spielberg does at the beginning of the Fabelmans. But in this film, it's less about the making of movies and it's more about the cinema experience itself.
Yeah,
so it's more
sitting
about
in a dark theater and
with
watching
other
the
people,
giant
the vibes of the communal feeling that movies bring to people and to towns, especially if it's like an isolated town. It's not like a big city like Milan or whatever. It's set in the country town of Giancaldo, I believe it's called. It's like everyone goes to the movies and it's the same people there every week. They all watch because they don't have blockbusters like we do now. It's like you get the one film and then you watch the one film. And it's really interesting look at not only town life, but what movie society was like in small towns in like the 20s and the 30s. And like the drama, kind of drama, like the priest deciding, you can't watch that, or in the movie theater and it has to cut stuff out, and they cut the kissing out of the films and it's hilarious and stuff like that. And like I said, the handling of the film. The projectionist has to the
actual
and then the
physical film stock,
but it's like much like the Fabelmans, it's also a family drama at the same time. The relationship between Toto and his mum, Toto and I'm blanking.
his friend.
The older projectionist. Alfredo, or is it Alphonse? I can't remember.
We shall look it up.
But it's a really touching...
Yeah,
Alfredo, yeah. It's a really touching story about a boy who doesn't really fit in at home, but he fits in at the cinema. And it's like he kind of gets taken under the wing of an older projectionist who begrudgingly teaches him the ropes and how to do it. But then the film changes gears and becomes the story of a young man who's trying to find himself, but also falls in love. And then there's the class structure element with the woman in the higher class, and he's just a poor projectionist boy, and stuff like that. And there's some cool fire effects and stuff. It's all physical. It was made in '88. It's all physical. And because it's not in English, I didn't hate the dubbing, which is also a huge bonus. There was no dubbing. It was all like people speaking the words, as opposed to
Italian.
when you're watching Italian horror movies and it's all jank.
It's got that anime vibes, like you. Which is part of the charm for me. That's why I love that.
So one thing I did laugh at though was how poorly cast the adult version is. The older version of Toto. So you have you have the younger version and the
that
young
never
adult
bothered
version.
me.
No, I know it's like it works fine because all three are good actors. So it's like you can look past it, but
he just looks different.
Yeah, completely different skin tone. It's because both the young boy and the older Toto have like swarthier complexions, but then you get to the famous director mode of Toto, and it's like a pasty white guy.
Well, maybe it's just rich mode. He's just in rich mode now.
That's it. He hasn't left the house in 3 weeks.
But one thing I love about this film is I love stories where the hero returns. So he leaves. Spoilers. He goes on to become a famous director.
Yeah, he leaves his little hometown.
And he comes back many years later to try and he has to revisit the town because of personal circumstances. But it's fascinating to see him try and reconnect with the people he left behind, and that's part of the most interesting part of the film for me.
It's a classic movie.
It's a trope. It's classic. It's a classic movie, but it's a classic trope of a story of the hero returns to his origins, and
I do love the the trimming of the famous director returning as well, and
Yeah.
it gets extra weight to the scene.
So, Fancy Pants has come back. Yeah.
Yeah, but then he looks at the old cinema and you're like, oh, my heartstrings.
And he's like,
Yeah.
see, now that cinema's the rarity. The old cinema.
Well,
Yeah.
us here.
No,
or-
just like the old cinema.
Oh,
kind
okay,
of-
Oh, yeah, the
yeah,
Paradiso in the
yeah.
film.
Yeah,
Yeah. Look, I haven't done this film justice by explaining it. I recommend you go and watch
Yeah,
it. Beautiful sweeping vistas of the Italian countryside.
It's one of the classic like foreign films that made it big in English-speaking territories.
Like,
It's one of the most famous Italian films. It won the Oscar for best foreign film
language. Yeah,
that year.
we were talking in Fabelmans about how
classic.
Fabelmans felt like a real film. Well, this has the same
Yeah.
thing. It was filmed in '88 on
But
location.
when we say that now, it's because most movies
Don't look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
But
back in the 80s, even the dodgy movies was like,
Yeah.
at least it was a
But
real movie. and-
breathtaking countryside scenes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Like bright colors.
Ennio Morricone did the score.
Oh,
Mwah. Mwah.
Yeah, honestly, like it just looks gorgeous on
Yeah.
Blu-ray. I don't know. I don't know.
Bellissimo.
to be fair, we have the fancy Blu-ray, which is probably
Is there a
remastered.
4K edition?
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
I was talking to Callum off air, and I said I've seen the movie before, but I bought the 4K when it came out a couple of years ago, I want to say, and I never watched it because the theatrical version of the movie comes on the 4K disc, and the extended director's cut only comes
Yeah.
on the Blu-ray. I'm like, I bought the 4K so I could watch the extended cut again.
Yeah, I watched
I'm
the
like,
extended
and
cut.
I never opened it,
Is it-
and I've seen it before, and it's an amazing movie.
It's
but
either, is it Arrow or Criterion?
I think it's Arrow.
Arrow.
It's Arrow.
Yeah.
The
But I got that edition 4K
Yeah.
and I was still in the plastic. I'm always looking at it. I'm like, I have to rewatch it.
hate
But I'm
you.
like,
Yeah.
but I have to watch the Blu-ray. I'm like, the whole point is I bought the 4K.
Yeah, because there's a big difference in this film. There's a huge difference between the theatrical.
I would
cut
say,
and
look, with a
the-
movie like this, you kind of want to watch the long version,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
the theatrical
character piece.
theatrical cut's 2 hours. The extended cut is close to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they cut a lot out of his maturing. There's that middle section where he's like, maturing, learning to negotiate the relationships around him. I'm pretty sure they like cut a bunch of that out
Yeah.
to make to
Yeah.
compress it for theatrical
screenings,
audiences.
Yeah.
A movie that's only basically it's a character film. It's like you
Yeah.
kind of need all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
You
That's
can't cut.
it's the
I
meat
love
of the
that
film.
stuff.
Yeah.
Every time we
Yeah.
review a movie, we're like, oh, I wish I had a couple more character scenes, and
Yeah, because like I said, the family stuff, it's all a vehicle for, the growth of the character in this instance. And so you
Yeah.
need that growth.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like I said, I haven't done it justice. Please go watch it. It's a
amazing,
phenomenal film.
beautiful film. Like if you want a list of the great films, I'm sure Cinema Paradiso is on there somewhere.
And
Oh, yeah.
my last word on this film is that when he returns, he returns with some really interesting perspective on some of the stuff that happened to him as a young man. And I was like, it's cool to see a character return, but a return with a kind of like a mercy. No, that's the wrong word. Like a gentleness,
An
understanding of like some of the stuff that
Empathy,
went on
yeah.
before. And
Yeah,
I was like,
even though-
that really paid off some of the arcs.
Also, I won't spoil it, but the when he sees the montage at the end of the movie, it's one of the all-time.
Yeah.
One of the all-time.
Honestly,
great
I got a bit
cinema
misty.
moments. Yeah, no, it is one of the all-time great cinema moments.
Yeah, and you just see the tear.
yeah,
Fantastic. Honestly, I'm getting chills.
yeah.
That's just because it's really cold in here at the moment.
No,
It's
no,
also because we got the
Yeah.
aircon on blast because it's hot out. It's still stuffy.
No, but some like Cinema Paradiso is a classic.
Yeah,
I've watched it once and
yeah. It's great movie.
it's yes, I think I watched on streaming this. I haven't watched the Arrow Blu-ray, so I need to rewatch it with the extended.
The
version.
transfer,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Even just the Blu-ray will be much better than
Yeah.
streaming. And
Well, look, usually that's a different conversation with the sort of you get your standard Blu-rays released by the studios versus your
Arrow
nice
is also a boutique label who does
yeah.
the restoration. Original camera negative,
yeah
beautiful.
When you get a nice boutique Blu-ray, it's probably going to look quite
Yeah,
nice.
better than just when they
Just the
whatever
usual
studio
release,
craps
yeah.
it out. Yeah, no special features, no subtitles, nothing. It's
I
like
hate
no
that.
menu, it just plays.
yeah, I mean sometimes that's a benefit.
I don't mind- if
Do you
it
get the
costs me-
first
Oh,
adverts
yes,
before? Yeah,
Just because would you steal a car?
I mean I would.
It's
but-
like, well,
yeah,
I don't mind it if it costs $8, but sometimes you get these really stripped back Blu-rays and they're like that'll be $35. I'm like,
especially you have to import it, and you're like, Jesus.
yeah. But, So what else we got? What else we got watching as far as TV goes?
Should we? Do you want to talk about any movies, Nathan? Or
I haven't seen too much. We're going to talk about what I've seen hopefully next week. Yeah.
Did you guys watch White Noise? The new Baumbach movie?
Yet, no.
I haven't because I didn't think we'd be talking about it this week. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, we'll talk about it another time. It's a good movie. I liked it.
I watched like the first 10 minutes and I'm like, I like it. I'm not going to be talking about. I want to watch it and give it. I want to watch it closer to when we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. I just like I said, I'm like it's kind of hard to do this show sometimes because like we don't want to watch something when it comes out because we were going to review it later, and it's like that one I was like I'm just going to watch it. It's different.
Look, I'm a big Noah Baumbach fan. There's thing.
We're all Baumbach stans.
Yeah, we're all bomb fans.
Baumbach fans.
Baumbachers.
Baumbachers. Yeah, we're Baumbachers.
Yeah, but it's different from his other movies, but it's still a good movie.
Oh, look, him and Adam Driver, I'm there.
Yeah. That's
more do you want?
Greta Gerwig.
Oh, look, I reckon we've done enough.
Yeah.
Are we happy? I'm happy. We all happy? You got any games to talk about or anything?
Well, I got games. I got TV shows, but maybe I finished Chainsaw Man, the anime.
Was it good?
First season. Yeah, I liked it. There's parts of it where I really didn't like. I'm like, this is getting to really creepy pedo Japanese weirdo stuff that I don't like.
That's the source material.
The anime curse.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm going to turn this off, and then something crazy cool would happen. I'm like, oh yeah, I really. So yeah, it was interesting. But I think we'll talk about when you guys watch it because Callum and Alan are really big fans of the manga.
Yeah.
And so that's why I watched the anime because I'm like, oh yeah, we got to watch it. So I got all hyped for it. So I watch it week to week as it came out in Japanese. And I was like, oh, maybe I should wait till the English dub comes out and
apparently the English
binge
dub's
it all
really
at
good.
once. Yeah, I was like, I'll just wait for that and binge it all at once. But then I got invested and I got a few episodes in. I'm like, now I have to finish it. But maybe when the English dub comes out and you guys watch it, I'll rewatch it. I'll skip the cringe scenes.
You leave Denji alone.
Yeah. We'll talk about Slow Horses next week.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. And the one other thing I'll talk about is Nicolas Winding Refn's new TV show on Netflix
that
came
didn't get a lot of advertising. I just sort of stumbled across it.
Yeah, they just dumped it. That's understandable because it's not limited,
or is it?
Well, as far as I understand, it's the first season of potentially an ongoing show. But
I feel the ick.
As we know with Netflix, they cancel things willy-nilly. Even 1899, it was from the creators of Dark, who they knew they had a 3-season story arc. Why did they greenlight it?
This is where I get torn because I love Nicolas Winding Refn.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to watch it and get invested and then it get cancelled.
Exactly. But I'm like, I've talked about on the show before, I'm a Nicolas Winding Refn simp. I'll watch everything he does. I love it. So I was like, day one, I'm like, gonna binge this, even if it gets cancelled. It's not as good as his previous show on Amazon, Too Old to Die Young. That was way better, and that got cancelled. And I understand why. It's weird, and no one watched it. And this
I was trying to explain that show to my dad. I'm just like, there's like 10-minute sequences of just a guy standing around having a cigarette.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's the best.
And there's like 90-minute episodes.
But I'm trying to explain, like, that's a good thing. And my mum's like, it sounds boring. I'm like, well, yeah.
No way. It's like 90-minute episodes where half of it is just people standing around like looking at each other and smoking. And I'm like, yes. So now he's done this show on Netflix called Copenhagen Cowboy. And it's got some vibes from his previous works and some vibes from Too Old to Die Young. I don't know, but I suspect there are maybe some small ideas from the second season of Too Old to Die Young, which they didn't get to do because it got cancelled after the first season, that he's put into this Copenhagen Cowboy show.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a simp, so I loved it. But yeah, I don't think it was as good as Too Old to Die Young. And I think it's a bit rocky here or there. But it's only 6 episodes, and it's mostly vibes, synth music and neon.
If it's only 6 episodes, I'll probably watch it.
You could probably, I don't know, I don't know why Netflix even greenlit it because they cancel everything, even their big shows. So it's like, why even bother? There's no way they're going to give it season 2.
Yeah.
But they so far, I don't think they've announced if they've cancelled it or renewed it yet. So, I mean, I'll watch season 2.
If it exists.
I did notice that watching it, though, because a lot of it's very dark and a lot of it's very neon kind of reds and blues, and
So it'll look good on the OLEDs.
yeah, but I did notice that the streaming quality for Netflix has gone down over the last year, and I don't know if that's just me, or I think it's also because of the dark scenes. I think if it's dark, Netflix just can't handle it. If it's bright, it looks fantastic.
Well, I watched Glass Onion yesterday.
Yeah, Glass Onion looked good.
Glass Onion looked superb.
Yeah, Glass Onion looked pretty, but that's a very bright movie.
I think-
Yeah.
So I think it's got to do with the darkness.
Yeah,
Maybe their
Net-
compression
Netflix-
technology.
yeah.
Or whatever.
Netflix has
I
their
don't
own
think
special
it's-
compression algorithms,
Yeah.
and it's like smart delivery kind of picture quality.
I don't think
right?
it's my internet or my
No, it
TV.
wouldn't be.
No.
It wouldn't be. Netflix has their own system where they have their own like delivery mechanism where it's like it will dynamically, it will give you the target resolution at a lower bit rate.
Yeah.
Or at they call it something like the same quality at a lower bit rate, which is just horseshit.
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, dark scenes will most likely look worse when bright scenes look great. Like that's just how.
But
they
I just
deliver
feel like
their-
it was. I mean, yeah, it's always maybe been a bit of a problem, but I feel like over the last year, it's like gotten worse for.
Well,
certain...
I know they took a massive hit over COVID because they legally had to reduce their bandwidth or something.
Yeah.
Because of my data.
Yeah. Maybe they. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I was just watching it and being like,
yeah,
it looks kind of crunchy sometimes.
I'll watch it and I'll let you know what the things. But then again, you know, I don't know.
That's the thing. Is like
It could be our internet. It could just be
it'll
Netflix.
probably just get cancelled, and I'm like, I'm also someone who's like, yeah, what's the point of watching something if it's just going to get cancelled? But also, it's like you kind of deprive yourself of watching a good show.
Yeah.
I also want to support Nicolas Winding Refn.
And yeah, also like I said, I'll watch anything he does. But it's just like it's hard to know because Netflix, I don't think they know what they're doing. So
Well,
it's
not
hard.
anymore.
It's hard to figure out. It's like, well, what should I watch? What shouldn't I watch?
At one point they were fine, and then
Yeah.
now they're not fine
No.
at all. Yeah,
And especially with all the other streaming services doing weird stuff, or
it's like
Apple kind of upping their game. It's just like, what
I
are we
think
doing here? Well, why am I wasting my time?
all the talent in this area, in regards to the steady hands, we'll say, seem to be going to Apple, and possibly like Paramount hasn't really cancelled that many shows. At least the Paramount Plus shows, their own streaming shows.
Yeah, but how? Yeah,
But then again,
how many shows?
There's
new
not that.
shows
But
do
there's
they
not
have?
that many. That's the point. It's really just the Taylor Sheridan show at this point.
And Yellow Jackets we talked
and
about,
Yellow
and
Jackets.
maybe a couple others.
Yeah, but
Star Treks maybe. I don't
Star
know.
Treks, but it's just like they're all crumbling.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird time. I mean, I know for the last like 5 years we've been talking about look at the streaming wars and what's going on, but the last
They're all
year,
imploding.
the last year or
Yeah.
so is like, what the hell is
It's
going on?
no longer a war anymore when they're killing themselves.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's streaming genocide.
The streaming suicides.
Yeah,
Because it's HBO's just straight up
stripping content,
just deleting stuff.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Netflix is
Awesome.
cancelling everything.
cancelling. Yeah,
Apple's sitting there quietly,
yeah, we're taking over.
taking over. That's it.
Oh, yeah,
And that's it.
yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page. Tell your friends.
Yeah,
More review, please vote on the polls if we do more polls.
well, if we do more polls, yeah, or just like we
Let
always
us know your
say,
thoughts.
message us at Tuesday Review AU on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or email us at thetuesdayreview@outlook.com. And yeah, just anything you want to say. If you have a suggestion or if there's something you'd like us to focus on, but otherwise, like we said, we're just gonna do stuff that we want to watch and try to have fun. But if you give us some direction, we can try to accommodate that when we can, because that'll help us. That'll help me, especially if I have a list of 10 movies, I don't want to list them all on the show. And if someone says, "Well, I'll talk
Pare
about the
them down
B
a bit.
movies,"
Yeah.
then I'll go, "Okay, well, I'll pick out the B movie that I watched and
It's just chopping more. That's it. He watches it all the
chopping
time.
more. Hell yeah.
That's it, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. Adios, cousins.